Hi, I just thought I'd give my thoughts on melee Ignite in 3.25, as well as an update on what I'm planning. I only played Ignite Detonate Dead in 3.24, but I quit the league pretty early after testing a bunch of Scarab strategies, which didn't really work out because of tier 17 maps. For 3.25, my Vaal Volcanic Fissure build from Affliction League now does over 16,000 damage effectiveness per use, if you can solve the soul gain prevention problem. However, I think the soul gain prevention rune enchant that was teased only works with daggers, but since it works with daggers, it'll be very strong with Vaal Lightning Strike, which I also had a video on. I wouldn't be surprised if Vaal Lightning Strike is a top build this league, but I want to avoid the Vaal Lightning Strike meta since I already played it in Affliction League. If no one is playing it, I'll make it before the gear skyrockets. Anyways, I'm not an experienced melee player aside from the builds I created in Affliction League, but I have played Path of Exile since closed beta. A lot of people are going to try melee slams and manual Warcries, but I think they're going to hate the gameplay with all the weak mechanics that slowly spawn in monsters. And I think the only way around that is to use Ignite Proliferation or a skill like Volcanic Fissure or Snaking, lingering Vaal skills, or auto-targeting with General's Cry. And since Trials of the Ancestors League, I wanted to make a realistic stun build after I saw a video of someone stunning Uber Exarch for over 40 seconds with a Leap Slam meme build on Reddit. You know, jokes aside, there's a number of problems with that build for general gameplay. 1, Leap Slam requires the target to be on full life, which you cannot guarantee. 2, the build only has one purpose, which is to stun bosses. 3, if the boss has energy shield, and they usually do, they can avoid your stun. And so you have to do non-zero, but less damage than their energy shield in order to stun, but not potentially break your encounter on the first hit. And this is also a problem for an Elementalist who needs to hit a unique enemy to get the convergence buff, and also a problem for Ignite builds that want to use Elemental Overload because of damage over time snapshotting. Well, to solve all of that, I was thinking to stack Warcries, stack Reduced Stun Threshold, use multipliers that affect both hit and ailment damage so I can affect the stuns, use Concussive Force, which will add 50% more damage towards stuns, and I think I'll be able to guarantee stun most content and then burn it to death afterwards. You could go all in on stun / hit damage only, but the reason I want Ignite damage is I mentioned at the beginning of the video. PoE has a lot of stuff that lingers or spawns in, like Breach, Harvest, Beyond, the new weak mechanic, Eldritch monsters, etc. And I don't want to have to waste more exerts on monsters that spawned after I just killed a pack in the same place. By using Ignite Proliferation, you don't have to attack as often and the gameplay will be much more smooth. So a Stun Slam Ignite build can use 5 Warcry exerts: Infernal Cry, Intimidating Cry, Seismic Cry, Battle Mage's Cry, and Rallying Cry. Of these Warcries, only Infernal Cry's buff for added damage is Fire boosts Ignite damage. So the new Chieftain Ascendancy node with infinite power, Sion Sun's Roar, it's kind of wasted if you only want damage, and the buff only lasts for 3.9 seconds without investment. Rallying Cry does not give you a damage buff like many people think. The buff that you get from the Warcry is only for allies. However, Rallying Cry does give you more exert damage, though depending on the number of allies you buffed. So to get more damage from Rallying Cry, you should use Spectres, like a Dark Marionette this league, Herald of Purity, and/or Golems. For skills, you want the highest slam hit possible. From initial estimates, this looks to be Tectonic Slam of Cataclysm using With and Ashes of the Star and Endurance Charge stacking. This has other problems to solve though, like Endurance Charge generation. You know, do you need the Endurance Charges after you consume them? Depending on gameplay, the skill may need the Ralakesh and Patience in order to not instantly die after consuming the Endurance Charges. I will combine these problems with the Ascendancy choice in mind as well. And I'll now go over what I think about each Ascendancy for a Slam Ignite build. Elementalist has synergy with Rallying Cry and Golems. It saves points not having to get Ignite chance on the tree. It'll have the biggest Ignites, has Fire Exposure and free mana regen, conditional boss damage and AoE. However, bosses are never really the issue in PoE since many leagues. And the problem is usually tanky rares with stacked fire resist, life regen, and that sort of thing. And the other problem with Elementalist is it wastes so many points just getting to the bottom of the tree. You're going to have to tattoo every single one of these nodes and probably use a Timeless Jewel as well. Berserker only has 2 good nodes for Slam Ignites, Warbringer and Aspect of Carnage, which are really good nodes to be honest, but those are the only good nodes. If there's some way to make Rage affect damage over time, then Berserker is probably the best choice, but we don't know yet. Chieftain has a problem I mentioned earlier regarding Warcries. The Warcry buff effect doesn't really buff you unless you want to heavily invest into manual Warcries, which I don't think is going to be very fun. And the infinite power will only buff your damage from the Infernal Cry node. And this will also give you maximum endurance charges, but I don't know if that's going to be feel good to rely on. The other problem to consider with Chieftain is that the Fist of War node basically means that you have to put your gem in your chest armor, and if there's a really good rune enchant node in the weapon, then you won't be able to make use of this node. Juggernaut has passive endurance charge generation and +1 charges, which is about 11 to 14% more damage just per charge. But this is the least damage of all the ascendancies. But it'll probably be the tankiest and the easiest to start out with. As for duelist ascendancies, Champion got nerfed, but could have been okay otherwise. Like Adrenaline's okay. This build doesn't really need auras, but the taunt and the increased damage to taunted enemies is kind of okay. But just because of the nerfs, though, I wouldn't go Champion. With Slayer, you'd be taking Masterful Form and stacking Frenzy charges. But pretty much all these other nodes are kind of mediocre. You can't benefit from the melee damage here. This is just some extra sustain, which you could get through other means, and this is a conditional damage against bosses, and only if you killed recently. And like I said, rares are the main problem. So with all of that in mind, Juggernaut or Chieftain are probably the best choices without knowing what tinctures or runesmith enchants are available. But unfortunately, the PoE DB guy is on vacation, so we won't know what are all the tinctures or runes that you can enchants that you can get at the league start. If they show all of them in the harbor or King's March town at the beginning, I think that's worth checking out right at the start of the game, just to get a heads up on what rune enchants you might be able to craft into your build later. But there's also one other problem basically with all of the ascendancies other than Elementalist, which is getting Ignite chants. These attack Ignite chants nodes really suck. They don't do anything else, and you have to waste about 6 points just to max out your Ignite chance. So one way you could deal with that is there is a 5% chance to Ignite tattoo, but you will want to tattoo most of these strength nodes with Warcry cooldown or a stun duration. Anyways, that's my rant on Melee Ignite. This is a few hours before League start, and I still don't know what I'm doing. Hopefully this discussion was helpful for anyone also thinking about Melee Ignite. Thanks.